on that rooster. Just one look, now that poor cluck, his goose is cooked. The cow, the owl, and the waterfowl moo and hoo and squawk. Some birds with a feather shouldn't flock together like the goose and the big red cock. Like the goose and the big red cock. Like the goose and the big red cock. Like the goose and the big red cock.
Howdy-ho, boys and girls. This is your old pal Van, coming to you from Pensacola's sandy undergarments. Let's see what kind of trouble we can get into today, shall we? So I'm here on Santa Rosa Island. Santa Rosa Island is a little bit away from Pensacola, not too far. The speed limit is very slow, so it does take a little bit to get here once you go through Pensacola. But it's well worth the trip. So Santa Rosa Island is the last in a series of a chain of islands, and it is very famous for having a series of fortresses where they had mounted very large guns. So this morning, before it gets too hot, I thought we'd take a look around. I'm starting off here at Langdon Beach, which is absolutely gorgeous. You get this wonderful view of the Gulf of Mexico. Check that out. It's pretty early in the morning, so there's only a few people out here. I would imagine it gets a little bit busier during the course of the day. There's a lot of blowing sand and a lot of exposure. No shade to be found, but that's okay. We're tough, we can deal with it. Langdon Beach has a lifeguard. It has a facility, but apparently the covered area has been closed down because it's falling apart. There are, my favorite, a few outhouses down there. If you see the van just passed, who wants to use an outhouse? I actually did this morning, and it was not a pleasant experience. But when you're on the road and you're keeping it real and you're doing it cheap, guys gotta do what a guy's gotta do. So our first stop here at Fort Pickens is Battery Langdon. Now, Battery Langdon was completed in 1923. It housed a 12-inch cannon, which could fire a projectile 17 miles off in the distance. Right now, there is no getting in here. And I'll tell you, I tried to go up a path over there through all this vegetation, and there are a shit ton of horseflies, man. And I was getting eaten alive. Now, these horseflies were not messing around. They wanted a piece of your buddy Van, and they were having no other option. No matter how much poison I applied to my body, they were not having it. They were getting their pound of flesh. Unfortunately, I must report to you that there are only horseflies, no guns. Okay, so here we are at Battery 234. Battery 234 is an underground bunker where soldiers plotted fire in order to direct the projectiles at whatever target they were intending on blowing up. Things are not looking all that well. But wait a minute. What do I see here off in the distance? Could it be? Is that a breach I see? Let's take a look around. I see the breach. I see the buried bunker where the nerdy soldiers would hang out to plot the fire. This looks like a little bit of a turret. Could it be? I'm very excited. There we are, folks. There we are. How big is that big ass gun? That's a pretty big gun. So Battery Cooper, which is located just a few hundred yards down the road from Battery 233, is pretty damn cool. Whoever Cooper was, he must have been the man, because to have this gun named after you is pretty freaking amazing. It's large, and it's in charge. Cooper was packing some heat. Now, the coolest thing about Coop's gun is it was built, let me rush up the stairs, to raise and lower. So you see the little gears and winches and all that other stuff? Well, this gun could play peekaboo and raise up above the berm, fire, and drop back down as to not be detected by enemies. Now, the interesting and also very depressing thing about old Coop's gun, he was shooting blanks, man. Never fired a single shot. And like all the others, decommissioned in 1943. Let's go up on top of old Cooper's heat and see what we can see. Oh, looky there. Old Coopy playing peekaboo. The odd thing is, if you look around, up here on top you see all these blocked off chimneys and such, which only means that people were actually living soldiers underneath this to support a giant pistol that never fired a shot because there was no reason to. The military-industrial complex at its best, baby. We haven't learned a damn thing. So, this is Battery Worth. And Battery Worth is kind of cool too. It has a lot of steps to go up to get to the top. But fortunately, it's kind of worth it. Only problem I'm seeing with Battery Worth, no guns. No guns. No guns. I believe the guns actually were down in this little divot right here. That's where they fired from. And you can see there was 4 of them. You see the little 4 spots that they were mounted. I also read online that the biggest problem with firing these were that the soldiers that were firing them often went deaf. So the battery sits kind of up kind of high. There's all these little buildings and stuff you can check out. Kind of have access to the whole thing. Assholes with graffiti, but c'est la vie. You'll get their due someday. Now I suppose this area is where the spotters were. Or I'd like to think this area was where the spotters were. Oh look, there's even a little hatch going up that way that there's no way in hell I'm going up. Oh, look at that. That's pretty cool. It's kind of neat to think that they fired from down there all the way out into the Gulf. Pretty cool. So, the main purpose of Fort Pickens was to protect the naval base at the end of the bay. It also protected the bay itself from ships entering. Now, it's kind of interesting because where we're sitting here on Santa Rosa Island, on one side you have Pensacola Bay. On the other side, you have the Gulf of Mexico. So from this vantage point, you were offered a lot of different angles of defense. When you get up here on top, it's kind of awesome. You can see why this would be a great defensive position. Like there's the very tip of the island going that way. And then on this side, you have Pensacola Bay that leads all the way down to the naval yard. And then over on the other side, you have the Gulf of Mexico. And they had cannons mounted all around, cannons and mortars mounted all the way around to protect the fort. Now, as anybody without a stick up their ass would realize, echo, 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 you'll have to forgive me. Inside of the fort, well protected, well guarded, well armed, was where the officers lived. Of course, the muckety-mucks lived in the sheltered place. It doesn't seem like it would be a glory to be here at any point in time. You can kind of see all the old mechanisms and things like that, how they probably moved the armaments and the shells from one place to another. It's kind of cool. But getting back to the living quarters, so you had all your fancy schmancy officers living in their nice tidy quarters here in their secure area. Well, where do you suppose they would put all the enlisted folks? Obviously, right here in this big open area where a average everyday doughboy could sleep in a hot ass brick building in the Florida heat during the summertime, all in the name of protecting the good old US of A. You gotta love you some America. Well, folks, there's other stuff. They have a campground, nice beaches, places to stay and picnic and all that other happy stuff. But currently it is pouring ass rain here in sunny Florida. So it looks like we're gonna call it a day. But you know what? Before I call it a day, I like to keep it real. And when I keep it real, I always keep it real with an ice cold Voodoo Ranger. No product placement. No product placement. Cut it out. Please like and subscribe if you want to see some more content, because let's face it, I'm broke as hell. One more time before we go. Let's give it up to Cooper and his big gun. Laters!
Oh, the poultry pack, there's nothing left but bones and feathers and a bloody mess. So the moral is, careful what you do, 'cause the status quo gonna turn on you. The cow, the owl, and the waterfowl, moo and squawk. Some birds of a feather shouldn't flock together like the goose and the big red cock. Like the goose and the big red cock. Like the goose and the big red cock. Like the goose and the big red